and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping over to another beer from Klosterbrauerei Andechs, based in Andechs, Germany, in the state of Bavaria. Today we are jumping over to their Weissbier Hell. It is indeed a Weissbier, 5.5% ABV on this one. So before we even jump into this, let's get a bit more background information. This is a big point of confusion among a lot of beer fans and people getting into beer. Well, this sounds so similar. What does it mean? We've talked about the German word for white is Weiss, and the German word for wheat is Weiz, Weize with a Z. So one's a double S, one is a Z. Weizen is yeast, Weiss is white. But what's the difference between the styles? Well, basically nothing. They're both wheat beers. It's just in the south, in the Bavarian region, they call Weizen beers Weiss beers, literally translated to white beer. But it is the exact same beer family as Weizens, Hefeweizens, Dunkelweizens, that are at least 50% wheat. The rest of the country of Germany will typically call them Weize or Weizen beers, wheat beers, whereas in the south they call them Weiss beers, white beers. But it's all from the same thing. It's just a regional thing, where are you, and the nomenclature. So today, this being brewed in the state of Bavaria, they're calling this a Weissbier Hell. Hell being the German word for light. So a light white beer, and at 5.5%. So this will have at least 50% of wheat as part of the grain bill in it. Not really much to talk about in terms of label art. Again, same as the last Andechs we've done, only this has a nice yellow label. So we're going to get this cracked. We're going to use our nice all-purpose glass here. My Weizen glass is dirty, sadly, and can't use a dirty glass for beer. So let's get this poured right in. Oh yeah, that's a nice pale beer. Looking lovely, lovely, lovely. Give it room to make its head here. We'll see how long that sticks around. Let's just jump right in for a sniff. It is quite active in terms of carbonation. I want to get all the information out of it I can before this head eventually gets out of the way. Oh, it does smell lovely. You've got that classic clove and banana and kind of tutti frutti bubblegummy kind of accent coming out of this. It's very, very nice. It's classic Weiss beer, or Weizen beer if you prefer. It smells fantastic. This one they call a Weissbier Hell. Yeah, I would say that is a light white beer. Indeed. I have certainly seen some that are lighter in shade than this, but I would say that that's an appropriate categorization. It's in the spirit of the naming convention. It is a pale yellow color. Very lovely beer. Still got a nice little bit of head foam floating on top, so let's just jump right in and see what this one's about. Take one. Oh, there it is. Yeah, this is classic Weiss beer, guys. No surprises here. So, body and texture. This is a medium light beer. It's 5.5% for a Weiss beer. It feels exactly right. Mouthfeel, same story as the body. It's got the right amount of resistance. It's not over the top. It feels exactly right. You can feel it's, thicker than water. It's got fermentables in there, but it's not what you would term a very sticky or viscous beer mouthfeel-wise. This one does get very nice, very silky, creamy when you agitate on the palate. You often get that with Weiss beers. That does happen in this one. And I'm very pleased to say that the flavor profile on this is classic Weiss beer. And indeed, it's one of those beer styles, probably among the top, where I could say typically what you're going to get on the aroma profile is going to be extremely close to the flavor profile in the glass. So you're not really smelling a lot of things that you don't really taste, and vice versa. So it really is a beer style that pulls no punches. You smell it, oh yeah, it smells like that. Yep, that pretty closely approximates what you're going to taste. So in this one, it is very clove, banana, and slight kind of tutti frutti bubblegum dominant. It's the exact flavors you could pick up in the nose. So it is related to this Hefeweizen yeast. That's the reason that they taste like that. It's a very specific strain, and that's what imparts these very unique and interesting aroma and flavor compounds. It's one of my favorite beer styles. Indeed, Hefeweizen and Weissbiers in general were one of the very, very first styles of beer that I tried back when I first started going to Mr. Dunderbox years ago. And, you know, they started walking me down this magical path that is really, really good beer. It was one of the first styles. I used to drink this one with regularity. Big, big liter glasses while I was eating some schnitzel. Absolutely love Weissbier. And this one is extremely good. So, body, mouthfeel, aroma, flavor profile. It is classic Weissbier done just beautifully. This is the third, I think, Klosterbrauerei Andechs beer that I've tried. I mean, yeah, again, they've been brewing since the early to mid 1400s. They've got it down to a science, guys. You cannot go wrong with any of these if you are a fan of classic German styles, which I am. So I'm going to jump back in, second sip, let everything re-intensify, make sure I didn't miss anything of any great importance. Then we'll talk about the balance and the finish. Absolutely top-notch Weissbier. Take two. Yeah, it's that immediacy, that clove, that banana, that kind of bubblegum flavor. Behind that, you do also get this classic underpinning of a very kind of doughy and crackery kind of grain sensation to it. You get this with a fair bit of beer styles, but ones that are brewed with wheat, it is quite popular, just like a Berliner Weisse has this very classic kind of doughy, crackery, crusty. It's coming from the wheat edition. It's not coming from the barley. Not that you can't get that from barley, but it's far more common with wheat. And indeed, everything about this is classic. If anything, I gotta say, I feel like this one is maybe a bit more nuanced, and it's also maybe a bit more intense across various aspects of these classic flavor profiles that you're getting. But the balance is really the key I wanted to focus on here first, and that's what's really impressing me. So you're normally going to get clove and kind of banana aromas out of a Weissbier or a Weizenbier. This one is the exact same, but what normally happens is that it leans very, very heavily on clove. Some of the other subtleties are a little bit harder to pick out in a lot of these beers from a lot of different brewers. That's not the case in this one. It's got good intensity. If anything, maybe the clove aspect of it is not quite as intense as it is on most, but what it does is it lets everything almost have an equal intensity across the board. So I'm getting equal parts clove, equal parts banana, equal parts kind of bubblegum, tutti frutti-esque, and then after that initial rush and that intensity of the yeast strain characteristics backs off a little bit, and the underlying malt bill starts to pop up, it's the same thing. There's subtlety and nuance between, you know, what pops in with greater intensity, but the balance of all of that nuance is spot on. So I'm getting even parts out of the grain bill as well of this kind of crusty, crackery, and doughy bits. So everything really has its own voice, and I absolutely love it for that. You get all of the classic underlying aspects that you would typically find in a Weissbier, but they're just extremely clear to pick out. There's nothing vying for attention. The balance on the flavor profile in this is absolutely top tier. Now, in terms of the finish, it's a Weissbier. It's not a beer style known for a very, very long beer finish. Indeed, this one is probably in the high end of average, maybe slightly above average. There is a little bit more lingering clove on the back end before it's finally gone, compared to some, but I'd say realistically it's high end of average. It's not a beer style you expect an extremely long finish. Some do, but this one's kind of high end of the middle of the road. So yeah, all in all, guys, just a truly, truly great beer here. Klosterbrauerei Andechs is really doing it right for me. They're 3 for 3. I'm going to take my time, sip on this beer, count my scores. When we come back, we'll get this one ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Klosterbrauerei Andechs Weissbier Hell, a Weissbier clocking in at 5.5% ABV. Klosterbrauerei Andechs is based in Andechs, Germany. So guys, this was just another really, really well done example of a classic German beer style. This is the third, I believe, that I've had by Klosterbrauerei Andechs. Absolutely fantastic beer. This one was another one that did extremely well across the board, across all categories. Indeed, only 2 categories that did not get a perfect score on this beer. So we will jump straight to those 2 categories in question. The first of those was the finish. Look, a Weissbier is not a beer style that is known for having a particularly long finish. Some are longer than others. This was on the high end of average. It was nice, but it wasn't over the top. So I would say, yeah, this was really high end of average, mostly what I expected, a little bit better. So I did give it a 6 out of 10. The second category that did not get a perfect score was the head and the retention. Look, part of this could have been the fact that my Weissbier glass was dirty, and typically they are going to use those more narrow glasses intentionally. Not just for big aromatic creation, but they also do a very, very good job at creating a nice head. This one did okay in my much larger mouthed glass, but it was really just kind of average for the style. So maybe it was my own pouring, my glassware, but it did what it did. The head and retention gets a 5 out of 10, but that does of course leave a perfect 10 out of 10 in the remaining 8 categories. That's aroma, taste, body, mouthfeel, appearance, balance, my subjective thoughts, feelings, and example of style. So the total score on Klosterbrauerei Andechs Weissbier Hell is a 91 out of 100. Guys, just another fantastic beer. I have really been enjoying jumping into these beers by Andechs. I've had a lot of the classic German brewers. Somehow Andechs did not get on my radar, and I have been very, very much enjoying what I've had thus far. This was another fantastic, classic German-style beer that was done absolutely, absolutely top-notch. If you're a fan of Weissbiers, Weizenbiers, this is one absolutely worth your time to seek out. Folks, that is today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to stay in the loop on our videos, go live, just turn on your notifications by hitting that bell icon. Until next time, keep your beer, keep your craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.